Hello and welcome to your weekly reading. Today we are going to be doing the fire signs. I will be posting the rest of the signs later this week. Please don't pay attention to the dates. That's just for those of you that want to stay current. If this is coming on your page, this is probably the right week for you to hear this. So keep that in mind. So the first sign that we're going to look at today is Sagittarius. So I'm going to get these cards shuffled and I'm going to see what they have for you. So let's see. Okay. What does Sagittarius need to know this week? Okay, a lot of cards. Let's see. Okay. I think that there's like two more back here. Okay. There we go. Okay. All right, let's see. So I'm gonna get these organized and then I will hold up the cards sort of as we're going. So give me 1 second, we're gonna see. Okay. So for a lot of my Sagittarius friends, it feels like your overall messages are right here. We have the 7 of Wands and we have the Queen of Cups right there. It feels like there's a lot of questions of, is this worth it? Now, I don't know the specific scenario where you may be having that question. This could be school, this could be a relationship, this could be a living situation, kind of whatever you feel the most connected to, this is saying. And basically, I feel like what you're asking yourself is like, where should I put my energy? Is this worth me putting my energy into? And that's kind of the major question that I feel like you guys are coping with right now is like, is this the right thing for me to put my energy into? Is this the best use of my time, of my energy, of filling my cup? Does this fill my cup up back, sort of thing? So that's what I feel like the major energy is. Now on the book ends of this, we have the 2 of Wands or the 2 of Swords, and the 10 of Swords right there. I do think that you've had to make a lot of choices in your life that have to do with, do I stay in a sort of hurtful situation for the ease of it? Or do I walk away from this and I also suffer the hurt from that as well? And I think that's been sort of a lifelong struggle for you guys. You've dealt with this in childhood, you've dealt with this in adulthood. And so you've been faced with a problem like this before, where it's like, I don't know if it's worth walking away from because there's pain on either way, whether I stay or whether I leave. And you don't often hear that talked about, that sometimes it is worth staying in a situation just because it's less painful than leaving a situation. So I recognize this, just so you know. I know a lot of people are very quick with the, cut them off, and most of the time I would agree with that, but there's some situations that it's just not as simple as like, we'll cut them off and then we're done, So anyway, I get your guys' position is what I'm trying to say. It does feel like possibly like some secrets are coming out. So there's some truth coming to light about this situation. And I think it's going to help you make the best decision. Like, you guys right now are kind of in this judge position. You guys are sort of in this, like, I need to hear both sides. I need to hear all the information. And then I can start to decide what it is that I want to do. What is the best use of my time, right? Is sort of what, the overall message is here. So I feel like, first of all, your guides are saying, wait until all the information comes in. You don't have to make a choice about this right now. I feel like that choice is going to be a lot clearer once you kind of figure out what's going on. And so for some of you, this does have to do with like a divorce, an ex, and it may not even be your divorce. It could be parents, siblings, friends, that sort of thing. So if you yourself are not divorced, or even if you are, don't think that it's about like your ex, because that's not necessarily the case. That's not 100% what I'm getting. But I do feel like there is truth coming out about somebody that you maybe had a different perspective of at the time. Like, you may have gone into, I 100% feel this way about this person. I know who they are. I know what they did. And then it feels like maybe some things come out where you're like, maybe I was wrong. Maybe they didn't do the things that I thought they did. Or maybe that wasn't the whole story that I had heard. So basically, it's just confirming, be the judge, not like the police officer, right? It's not your place to do that like initial judgment. Get all of the information and then decide what you want to do with this relationship moving forward is, I think, the best thing to do in terms of like figuring it all out, right? And then the only other things that they're talking about right now, we do have this Knight of Pentacles in reverse, and we have this 4 of Swords in reverse position. These were both like the last cards out right here. Reverse position, some readers, their relationship with it is that it's bad or it's negative or we're having problems there. I actually feel like it's more of a sign from your guides, like, hey, you know, here's some constructive criticism. Like, these are the things that we need to focus on. These are the things that you're not doing well at, but we're going to work on it, right? And so with the Four of Swords in reverse and the Knight of Pentacles in reverse, your sense of stability is something that we have to work on. And it's also getting out of that mind prison that Four of Swords is right there. I don't actually think that you're lacking stability. I actually think that you're doing better than you kind of ever have, but I feel like sometimes that's hard to recognize, because when you've lived in a situation for so long where you're like, you know, you're surviving and you're fighting and you're trying to figure everything out and you're trying to get everything together and everything is like clawing up the ladder. When you finally are in a place of stability, it's kind of hard to let go of that idea that like, maybe I'm okay, you know, because just for so long you've been living in survival mode. So really what they're telling you to focus on is like, actually look in front of you, literally even write it down on paper, you know, what's going on in your life, the good and the bad, and pretend that you are somebody else reading that. Your life actually looks really good on paper. Like, everything is really good. It's just sometimes we almost have trust issues with our current self because our past self was struggling so much that we fail to see ourselves as we are. We usually always miss that, right? Like, we always miss who we are in the current moment. And then we look back on in the past and we're like, oh, wow, we were doing really good. So try to use this opportunity to recognize yourself now rather than letting it happen later. That's going to be the best thing for you right now. But other than that, Sagittarius, I think you have an amazing week ahead of you. I'm excited to see what happens. And I'm also really excited about this kind of like, I don't know, self-love, getting back in touch with yourself journey. So good luck, Sagittarius. Okay, now I'm going to reshuffle the cards. We're going to do Aries. Aries is next up. So let me see this real quick. Okay, so we want to see, is there anything that Aries needs to know about this week, or any like messages that you want to get out there, want to get across to any of our Aries friends? Okay. Let's see. Okay. Wow. Okay. You know, it's like weird because there's definitely, I would say, like a darker energy than what we just did for Sagittarius. Not necessarily bad and not necessarily sad, just like maybe a little bit darker, a little bit more serious, a little bit more to the point, you know, which is really interesting. Like, I wouldn't say that a rainy day is a bad day, but it's definitely more serious than a sunny day. And that's kind of the vibe of this reading. Oh, okay. So your card came out during this. We have the Emperor. Look at that representation in your own reading this week, which is always super fun. So oh boy, this is a tough one. All right, we're going to buckle up. Some of you are considering leaving the romantic relationships that you're in. I guess for some of you, this could be a friend. This really feels romantic to me. So it feels like there are some doubts about your current relationship. Is this working out for me? Am I actually happy? Am I staying in this for the right reasons? That seems to be kind of like the overall question, right? Like, should I stay, you know, like what's going on with this? Justice is here to guide you in that decision. So you have been really, really, really focused on sort of like the shallower things about this relationship. And what I mean by that is like, it's easy for you when the person you're with makes a mistake or does something that you don't like, that you're like, well, they have a good job. Or they're, you know, they're super cute. Or, you know, I like the way that they dress. They have a lot of friends. It's like, I feel like you're excusing the deep things that they do that you don't like. And then you're kind of giving them leeway with like, oh, but they're this and they're that. And as we all know, none of those things are really like what's important in a relationship, right? They can add to it, but they're not like the foundation of the relationship. So if you feel like you've been doing this, I feel like this message is definitely for you, and it's probably a good thing to, you know, stick around and listen to it. I will wrap up the love situation with this. I think that if you can picture yourself not being anxious leaving this person, then that's your answer right there. I'm not talking about being sad, and I'm not talking about, you know, even worrying about, will I have regrets or did I make the wrong thing? I'm saying that, like, if it makes you anxious, the thought of this person not being in your life anymore, then it's worth working on. But if you honestly think about it and the absence of them doesn't make you anxious, that's a huge answer right there with this question, you know, so kind of a lot to think about is basically the moral of the story. Okay, so for those of you who are building a house or thinking about building a house, for some of you this could be moving, but it would be a little bit more like buying a house, building a house sort of thing. So for those of you that are sort of going through that, look, if there's even a sense in you that's like, there's something about this that feels wrong, there's something in my gut, like there's no physical thing that I can point to and say this is a bad idea, but there's just something with it, you got to trust that impulse. And I do think that oftentimes like anxiety and intuition can get messed up with each other, right? Like I certainly face that all the time. This is a little bit different though. This feels like it wouldn't be the worst idea. This wouldn't end your life. This wouldn't ruin your life by any means. But if it doesn't feel right, it might mean that there's a better opportunity coming down the line if you're willing to be patient with it. So for those of you that are maybe feeling that way, this is kind of your sign that like, let's maybe let this one pass and let's see what the next one has to offer, because I think you're going to get more out of that way as well. Okay, so some of you may be dealing also with like some water energy, and then the moon as well is kind of telling you like that maybe you're not seeing things clearly. So I always like to say that like our scope of reality, we oftentimes live so much in this that we forget about the outside world. I would almost compare it to like if you just walked out of a movie theater, you may for a little bit view the world in the form of that movie because that's all that you saw for 2 hours, right? And then we kind of come out of it and then we go back to our own lives. We do this sometimes with like depression, anxiety. We do this when we're thinking about the future. We have a tendency to only really think about things in terms of like, oh, you know, like this must be life, right? Somebody hurt me. People must be hurtful. You know, I'm a woman and I've always been cheated on. Men must be hurtful. And so we do this. It's like, it's a survival instinct. We are, you know, born to do this sort of thing. But the difference is that you have to be able to recognize, okay, is it my fears and I'm seeing patterns of my fears because I'm looking for it? Or is this actually something that I should be worried about? And this just has to do with you guys in like future planning. There's a lot of future anxiety here that you like, you know, you kind of feel like, I don't know if anything's going to work out. I'm kind of in this rut. I feel like I'm going to stay in this rut. And for those of you that are feeling this way, this message is to say, maybe that's not the reality of the situation. Maybe that's your anxiety about the situation, right? So there's sort of this vibe of like, maybe let's table that for a second and move past that, because that may not be an accurate representation of how you should be feeling or what's going on right now. So that's one thing to keep in mind as well if you feel like you've been in that place. That is confirmed, by the way, with this Hanged Man that we have right here. But this Hanged Man more closely identifies with this Nine of Cups right there. And keep in mind, we had 2 nines. We had the Nine of Wands and then now the Nine of Cups. These two cards in relation to each other, they're talking about have a new perspective of your goals. I feel like you're really, really trapped in like what you thought success was or what you thought happiness was. But it's kind of like, remember when you were a kid and, you know, you knew for a fact this is how the world works. And then you became an adult and you saw it from the other side and you're like, that isn't really how life works, is it? That's what you need to be focused on right now, is like, whatever your view of success was, whatever your view of, you know, really succeeding and really getting there was, may not be what actually is going to make you happy. It might be time to look at those goals and analyze them as an adult now and be like, I don't know if that is what I really want. I don't know if being a lawyer is the best thing for me, for instance. I don't know if having a husband like this is the best thing for me, for instance. Like, it's kind of time to, rather than be like, oh, I'm never going to reach these goals, maybe ask yourself, why has the universe not given me the tools to achieve that? Is there something else that I'm meant to be achieving? Is there something else that I should be doing? So reshape it in your mind, because if something just isn't working out over and over again, maybe there's a greater plan at play than what you can see. Maybe be open to the possibility of something changing. So, All right, Aries, that is what I have for you today. Come check back next week and we will look at another reading for you guys. I am going to move on to Leo. So Leo, let me get these cards shuffled for you. Okay. Let's see. All right. Anything for Leo? Anything that you want Leo to know this week? Really just any messages that you want to get across. There we go. For the Leo that will watch this video. There we go. sometimes I have to clarify that because they're like, well, anybody? And it's like, no. This particular person, sorry. Okay, let's see. Overall messages, we have the Knight of Cups and the Six of Pentacles. So those are the ones that really flew out. Those are like, sorry, the main messages that I'm getting for you guys right now. Okay. Yes, then we have the Chariot, the Eight of Cups. We have the Emperor, Knight of Swords, King of Pentacles. We have the Six of Swords in reverse, Nine of Swords in reverse, the Hermit, the Page of Swords, Strength, and then lastly, we have Death in reverse position. This is actually the one that I want to start with. I usually start with the Fear cards, but this one's just, look, death is not always a bad thing. Obviously, if you're into tarot, you know that death is not a bad card. What I mean, though, is that death is an incredible card. To me, it's one of the most positive cards that you can get. But it's tricky because when death approaches you, when you are given this card, it does not feel like a positive thing. So I'm going to give you an example. Let's say, for instance, that unfortunately your cat passes away, right? All you can see at that time is like, oh my God, this door just closed. I just lost like my best friend. I just lost my baby. But maybe the reason that happened was so that you could move into an apartment that doesn't accept cats. Maybe you have like a new job opportunity in a new city or a new area. So that's just one example, for instance. Like, I feel like all the time when these doors close, we have a really hard time seeing why is it closing now? This is the worst time for it to close. I wasn't ready for this, right? We have a hard time looking at that as a door closing and a window opening because all we see is that door just slamming right in our face, right? So death also comes with acceptance. When you get this card, it comes with acceptance. You're struggling with this. This is something that you're having a really hard time letting go of. There are just things in your life that are ending. There are things that are starting over, but this doesn't have to be a bad thing, and it's certainly not going to be in the long run. It's basically what they're saying is it's up to you to reframe how you feel about this. I think that when you're super resistant to change and you're really, really, really resistant to this new phase starting over, sometimes they have to force you and it ends up just being like a little bit messier than maybe it should be. Acceptance is a huge part of being able to move forward. So I'm just going to say, so for a lot of you, we're dealing with some childhood stuff. And then for others of you, we're dealing with some love stuff. I'm going to talk to the family stuff first. So those of you that are kind of feeling impacted by this, I feel like, this is so interesting what they're saying. It feels like there might be a grudge that you've always held on to. So this could be, you know, that you weren't really close with one of your parents growing up. This could be that one of your parents made a really big mistake growing up. And I feel like you're slowly being pushed into like seeing it from the other side, having some empathy for the situation, some forgiveness. But there's almost like if I let go of this, what do I have? Like almost a fear you're not willing to admit to yourself that if you were to forgive that person, if you were to fully let go of that, like there's almost like you're worried a consequence to that action. I don't know if that's like another parent that you would have issues with running into, the other parent if your parents are divorced. I don't know. I don't know if you feel that maybe if you let that go, it just changes your relationship with that parent. I don't know. The interesting thing though is that I feel like this is part of what that death card is talking about, is that sometimes it's okay to lose a little bit of control, and sometimes it's okay to admit that you've changed your mind on something. Even if you were so starkly like against it or for it or whatever, it's okay to change your mind. For those of you who are dealing with a separation, who are dealing with a breakup, sorry, I want to say hi, sorry. For those of you that are dealing with a breakup, I feel like for a lot of you, it's basically like your guides are, sorry, they're being kind of rough with you today. They're like, face the truth of the situation. I know that this person seemed like the love of your life. I know that this person seemed like the perfect person. But a lot of the credit that you're giving them for being such a great partner, a great person, the person that you want to spend the rest of your life with, you know, all that stuff. Stormy, no. Sorry. All of that stuff is the credit that you gave them. They didn't really show you that they had that in them. That was all potential. That was all I see them being like this. So for those of you that are dealing with it, I'm going to give you similar advice that I gave another sign earlier. Maybe literally write down this person on paper. And don't make excuses and don't say to yourself, yeah, but I know them personally. literally write it down and look at it and be like, yeah, maybe I did build up a lot of this in my head, you know, the good and the bad. Maybe some of this stuff was not fair and I was giving them too much credit. And I think that that's going to help you maybe cope with like the next stage of this. For those of you, that's your death card in reverse, right? That's the thing that you have to move past. That's the thing that you have to work through. So that would be my biggest advice to you, Leos, today. The only other things that kind of came out was strength in being alone. That's one message that we had. We want to have strength in isolation. You guys tend to struggle with isolation because you are so extroverted. You guys struggle sometimes with like, you know, feeling entertained by yourself, I would say, is the biggest thing. So that's why I think they're encouraging strength in isolation. What I think, if I can translate more specifically, they're saying is find things that you can do by yourself that are entertaining. So it's not just that you have to be content sitting alone with your thoughts, but maybe make like a special you time. Sounded like something different, but I didn't mean it like that. One-on-one time with yourself that you can enjoy. You know what I mean? Not that. And that's what I feel like you should be trying to build in your life. I'm sorry, you know, a hobby. That's what I'm trying to say. I could have said that. I don't know why I didn't put it like that. A hobby, something that has to be solo, something that you can find joy in yourself, just because you're also going through a phase of like other people in your life kind of like transitioning through things and going through different phases. So it might be good for you to build up some alone time with yourself and like feel good about who you are. So that's really the only other advice that they have for you this week. Leo, thank you so much. This has been such a pleasure. All of my fire signs, thank you guys. And you guys know the drill. You know, please like and subscribe and all that stuff. I don't want to waste too much time talking about it, but I would love to hear your thoughts below in the comments as well. I really love reading through the comments. So I hope you guys have a great day and I will talk to you next week. Thanks, guys.